This is the garden of Chef Juan Pablo Loza in the beautiful Rosewood Mayakoba resort just south of Cancun in the Yucatan Peninsula's Riviera Maya. The sprawling gardens, of course, are a great place for the guests to relax, but they also serve Juan Pablo's restaurants.
It's great. We have the plants with the chiles.
It's a great way to introduce people to things. Now, you've worked in lots of places in Mexico. You've worked in Baja, Mexico City. And how is it different working here?
Well, I think it's the way of the people, how the people think, and they're very proud, right? So I'm learning Maya already, so it's really great to see the way how they make tortillas, the way how
You're learning Maya?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Are you just learning it by talking with people in the
yes,
kitchen,
well,
or what?
we have a lot of local people that speaks Mayan, so I'm really proud to live here. I think already I'm part of this place, and this is the best way to.
So you get all these amazing ingredients, and you wrap all the ingredients in this culture that's here, and then out comes food.
And that's what we try, is to show what's the real flavor of this region is just not the ingredient, it's a little bit of the way of thinking, right?
Working on the scale of a large resort can pose a challenge when it comes to sourcing local ingredients. But the gardens here supply a huge variety, from habanero chilies to chaya plants, even achiote seeds. This is one of the most defining flavors of Yucatan cuisine, the oregano. And I know a lot of our viewers are probably going to think that's a crazy thing to say, but it is. It's not like Mediterranean oregano at all. And it's not even like what we call Mexican oregano, which I understand to be in the same family as this, but this is so much bigger.
Yeah. It's more like wood aroma. It's very unique.
It is. It's a very unique flavor. But this is something that is used here in the Yucatan too. Where I live, we call this stuff Cuban oregano.
Okay.
And we grow it as Cuban oregano, and it's really not related to this oregano at all. It's kind of like a succulent plant.
Yeah, it's more meaty.
Yeah, very meaty.
This one normally it's just from the pot, they cut it, chop it, and put it in.
And put it straight in.
This one is like from like dry woods, right?
And
like
this one is usually dried. Okay, in Chicago, we use this as an ornamental plant, and hardly anyone cooks with it or eats it.
Well, you know, in Mexico we eat everything, right?
Down the coast at the southern tip of a protected biosphere is a town called Punta Allen. Juan Pablo wanted to take me there and show me how he sources sustainably raised lobster. The roads are more than a bit rough, so we decided to make the trip by boat. In this little fishing village, I would meet a couple of Juan Pablo's friends who are leading the effort for sustainable fishing. But what struck me first was the incredible, almost unbelievable beauty of Punta Allen. This is like paradise, right?
It is paradise.
Yeah, like it's so far down in the biosphere that it's like there's hardly any people that ever get to see this, right? But there's something bigger going on here too, because this is a sort of sustainable lobster fishing. So talk to me about that.
So basically, you have a sustainable population when you can guarantee that the next generation is going to be there for the future generations.
But how do they do that? How do you know that that's what's going on?
Basically, you respect the life cycle. You guarantee that the juveniles get to a reproductive age, and you free the egg-bearing females.
Oh, okay.
And from that general condition, you also have a closed season. So you can fish from the 1st of July to the 28th of February.
So it's a long season.
8 months.
8 months.
I think it's very inspiring. The local people, instead of just fishing like crazy, they realize that they have to take care of what they have in order to have it forever, right? If they just catch everything they have, tomorrow they won't have any more. So that's why it's very important. They just need somebody to take their lobsters and
And you're the one
cook
to take
it.
their lobsters.
First we need
but
to catch
I
it.
think we need to go
And then
yeah,
we
take
go
their
get them.
lobsters.
Let's go get some fresh.
Let's do it.
The lobster fishermen here each have their own little piece of the sea where they're allowed to fish. They free dive down to these large cement traps that they call casitas. They joke that these are free-range lobsters because these special traps actually allow the lobsters to come and go as they please. And they're caught in nets that won't injure the lobsters, another important step toward sustainability. Whoa!
One trap. One trap.
Now, are any of them big enough?
Let's see the test.
Okay, let's see the test. Kim showed me how to check to see if the lobster was large enough to keep. If they're too small, or they happen to be an egg-bearing female, of course, they're thrown right back into the water. Back on the shore, they make a fantastic coconut lobster soup that starts by frying the lobsters in oil. Next, fresh coconut is ground, then steeped with hot water and strained. Now that coconut milk is combined with sautéed tomatoes, onions, garlic, and oregano to make the base. The cooked lobsters go in, and the result is a soup that's almost as rustically beautiful as it is delicious. Back at the resort's outdoor restaurant, Juan Pablo's staff puts together special meals for guests that highlight the amazing flavors of this region of Mexico. And of course, lobster is one of the stars of the show. So you call this dish lobster zarandeado, right?
Yes.
Well, why do you call it zarandeado?
Well, the sarandeado is a technique from the Pacific, North Pacific of Mexico, where they take a whole fish, marinated with some spices, and put it on the grill.
That's what the only way I've ever seen zarandeado is a whole fish.
So here we don't know what to say, so we just call lobster zarandeado because we're putting a crust of spices on the lobster, and then we'll grill it as well. We're
so
getting
this
this
is your like zarandeado marinade.
Our interpretation of a zarandeado.
Okay, so how do you make your zarandeado marinade?
Well, what we do, it's adobo with some chiles.
Yeah.
So we will just clean up some chiles. We put avocado leaves.
Oh, okay.
I love avocado leaves because this gives like a licorice flavor.
Licorice flavor.
We put some onion and garlic. Everything will be in the grill, toasted.
Okay, can I help you?
Yes, please.
To begin the adobo, we started by stemming and seeding the pasilla and guajillo chilies. Juan Pablo cut an onion in half, and then all the ingredients went onto the grill. Now, once the chilies were toasted, they went into some hot water to soak. And then all the roasted and toasted ingredients were combined with some of the chili soaking liquid and blended until smooth. That's a bigger lobster than we saw at Punta Allen.
Well, we got it from the same vendor, of course, but yes.
But they went out to the ones that had the really big ones in it.
Exactly.
Juan Pablo cut the lobster tail in half, then removed the intestinal tract the way you might with shrimp. He drizzled on some olive oil, gave the lobster tails a sprinkling of salt, then placed those on the grill. When they were about half done, he took them off the grill and then combined the adobo with mayonnaise. With the chilies, the roasted onion and garlic, and now with the creaminess of the mayonnaise.
Exactly.
That would be a great kind of marinade for pretty much any kind of grilled fish.
Yeah, it works great for fish or even just a sandwich, right?
Next, he covered both sides of the lobster tail generously with that adobo before sliding them into the wood-fired oven to finish their cooking. In the meantime, Juan Pablo started a side dish by grilling some ears of corn. He sautéed some chopped onion and some chopped garlic in a cazuela with olive oil. We cut the kernels off of the ears of corn and added them to the cazuela as well. After it had all cooked down a bit, he took half of the corn mixture and blended it together with some cream. Once that was smooth, he added that back to the cazuela and it smelled wonderfully sweet. It looks really spectacular, I'll say that for sure. So I haven't tasted the corn yet. There is this tradition in the United States of lobsters with corn. Hands down better than anything that I've ever had there. This is so delicious. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Rick. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
I've asked Bill Shores to talk gardening with us today. Now, Bill is the master gardener that is responsible for all of our restaurants' gardening projects. And today we're going to talk about containers. Everybody knows about herbs in containers, right?
Containers are very fun to grow in. Lots of edibles we can do.
This is Swiss chard here, and it's in a really big pot.
I really like Swiss chard. It's
It
a
looks
colorful
beautiful.
plant. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
This is great, and it looks good in a pot. One thing I found about it, though, it likes to have a deep root system. So you can see how we have a taller pot here. That's intentional. And it grows well. You get this nice big leaves. You can cut these off and it'll produce new leaves from the middle.
Can look good all season long.
All season long, you're going to get that color and that visual interest. You just harvest it. It's like a cornucopia. It just keeps coming back with more and more leaves.
Do you just dig up soil from the garden and put it in there?
Soil is great for plants in the ground or raised beds. Perfect. But in a container, the conditions are very different. Plants need good drainage, good aeration for good root development. So they need a lightweight growing medium. Plus, if you have to carry around the container, you don't be carrying around the soil. Very heavy. So if you go to the garden center, you can just pick up bags of potting mix. If it says it's for container growing, it should be lightweight. If it's heavy and you really have to lift it, it probably has sand or maybe soil in it, so avoid those heavy bags.
Now, I noticed that in this pot over here, there's not much depth here.
No.
You got gorgeous radishes growing here.
Absolutely.
But you don't need the kind of depth that you need for the chard?
No, these are small space crops, and they will grow, as you can see. This is 5 inches deep, not even quite 5 inches. And look at the good growth on these. They don't require the deep root system.
I know you grow massive amounts of salad greens in raised beds. But can you grow those in containers as well?
Absolutely. They're totally suited to small containers, such as one you're just looking at.
I'm glad to hear that because I'm kind of obsessed with this one lettuce that you're growing right now, and I want to show everybody what that is. So let's
Let's take a look.
So what kind of lettuce is this that I'm so wild about?
This is a leaf lettuce. It's an incised type. I mean, look at these frilly leaves. That's what incised means.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful just to look at. I love the way it tastes too because it's got a sweetness. But what is really cool about it is that when you mix it into a salad, it makes the salad really fluffy, and then it adds all this beautiful color to it as well. Now, how do you grow this? If you were going to grow this in a pot, what would you do?
Well, I'd get probably a pot with maybe about 10 inches depth. So you can get a nice, because we're growing full heads here. It's not just baby leaves. So, and then put it with your soilless growing medium. And then you can just direct seed it.
How far apart would you put those seeds?
I would plant about 2 or 3 seeds every 6 inches. They should be about 6 inches. A pot, maybe you could do them 4 inches a pot. They wouldn't get quite as large as these ones. In the raised
because
bed.
they would be too close together.
Yeah, but in a pot, you could squeeze more in there, maybe just get slightly smaller heads, but still get good production.
So if it was on my back porch and it was getting 6 hours of sun, would I have to water it twice a day?
Yeah, what you could do is you could put a tray underneath and put some water in there, so then the water would wick up and keep the plant moist while you're at work or whatever.
There is nothing better than harvesting lettuce yourself from your own growth and then making a simple dressing and just relishing that moment in the summer. This stuff is really delicious. Now, show us how you harvest it.
Sure. So these, as I said, are full heads. So I'm just going to get a little knife, serrated knife here, and I'm going to cut right down at the base here. So go all the way down to the soil level. I'm just going to cut that off like that. And then we've got this nice head right here, ready to go. Now, it's not quite ready to use. We want to get these individual leaves off this. As you know, a 3-inch leaf is ideal for salad. You don't need to cut it. It's a good bite-sized piece.
Well, I can say that it's just as delicious as it is beautiful.
It's good stuff.
When the grill is hot, I like to get a little bit of grill flavor into a lot of dishes that are on the table, all the way to salad dressing. So I'm going to make a simple grilled lime vinaigrette. Well, you might not think the flavor of it is so simple once you taste it. I was blown away the first time that I did this. I thought that the grill flavor enhanced the vinaigrette so much. So there's a little, well, let's call it a little vessel here of aluminum foil. It's just a doubled piece of aluminum foil with the edges turned up to catch any of the juice that comes out. This grill is set up so that it's really hot, like something you would grill hamburgers or steaks on. And I'm going to just set these here in the middle of it and close it up. Now those are going to have to grill for about 3 or 4 minutes per side until they're golden and juicy. The limes have now cooled to room temperature, and I'm going to use the Mexican lime squeezer to squeeze that out. You'll be surprised at how they change in texture. They soften up completely, and they get just a tiny bit sticky. It's almost like that they make a syrupy kind of juice here. And you can see a lot more of the pulp is going in. I need about 1/3 of a cup. Okay, now on to the making of the dressing. The lime juice will go in. Next will be olive oil. When I'm making citrus dressings, it's usually a 2-to-1 proportion. I'm going to add the salt. Remember when you're making a dressing that you always want it to taste slightly salty because it's going to be spread out over a whole lot. Chop up a serrano. Add that to the blender along with a small handful of cilantro. And now to balance the natural acidity, a little bit of honey. This is that beautiful Mayan honey that I brought back from the Yucatan Peninsula. Everything gets blended until it's smooth. Give the dressing a little taste. I want to make sure that I got the right amount of salt in it. Wow, that's, I would say, explosively good. I brought in some radishes from the garden and sliced those up as well. Now to dress the light textured greens, I usually do a little drizzle around the outside of the bowl. Then very gently turn everything in the dressing. Now That's what I call a salad. When you're in the mood for shellfish, well, you might be thinking about lobster, but that would be for a special occasion. More every day might be shrimp. And I'm going to show you what I call my back pocket shrimp recipe. It's a shrimp with spicy, tangy, sweet chipotle. And of course, we have to start with shrimp, and I'm peeling some shrimp here. Let's face it, most of us work with frozen shrimp, so I have a bag of frozen shrimp always in my freezer. Defrost it under cold running water and then peel it. So you want to take the shell off, starting at the top of the shrimp, but leaving on the last little segment there of that shell. Okay. Now for the chipotle part of this, it's really very simple, but I'm going to start with a half a head of garlic. And to take that really pungent raw garlic flavor out of it, I'm going to blanch it. Cover the garlic with water and microwave it for 1 minute on high. The bowl will be hot, so be careful as you tip off the blanching liquid. You'll also need about 1/3 cup of water for the chipotle glaze. Now the chipotle part of it is going to be the canned chipotle. So remember, a chipotle is a dried chili, smoked dried jalapeno, but it's been reconstituted in these cans in a sort of vinegary tomato broth. It's all seasoned and very easy to work with. Now this is going to surprise some of you. I'm going to put the entire can of chipotles in their adobo into the blender jar along with our blanched garlic and the 1/3 cup of water, and then the sweet part will come from honey. I'll need a couple of tablespoons of that. Then put the top on the blender, and I want it to become a smooth sauce. Okay, now on to the shrimp. I like to cook shrimp in a wok because I can stir fry it and it gets this really beautiful, almost crunchy like texture. I've had this wok heating the whole time we've been doing these preparations over a kind of medium low heat. Now I'm going to turn it up to a high heat, which is what I want for cooking the shrimp. Next step is to film the wok with a little bit of oil. I like to use one that's meant for high heat cooking. And when I'm sure that that is really hot, which I can test by a little sizzle like that, I'm going to add this shrimp all at once and start the stir frying. This shouldn't take more than about 2 or 3 minutes max. If you don't have a wok, do this in a flat skillet, a wide flat skillet. When the shrimp has mostly lost its gray color and started to turn completely pink, then we're going to add as much of this as we like. Okay, so remember, it had a whole can of those chipotles in there, so it's going to be a spicy glaze for it. Give the shrimp a nice sprinkling of salt, and then scoop them into a serving dish. Now I like to put some cilantro over the top. But I also thought some chive blossoms from my garden would make a spectacular garnish. And finally, I thought some cross-cut spicy nasturtium leaves would top it all off perfectly. And that would be a beautiful, fast, and very special dinner. Okay, so I fired up your appetite. Some of my favorite dishes, entertaining tips, and Mexican travel inspirations. Well, now I want to hear what you have to say. Visit us at rickbayless.com/TV for recipes and a whole lot more.